Welcome, everyone, to the Armed Forces Insurance Military Spouse of the Year show, where we get to talk with our MSOYs about what it is that they're doing in our communities. Today, I'd like to welcome to the show Rebecca, who is joining us today. Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Rebecca Emerson, retired Air Force and active duty Army spouse. So we're a joint family. I'm actually a Coast Guard kid, so I'm from a multi-generational military family, and we have two kids, Lincoln 6 and Winston 5. Our youngest son, Winston, was born with Down syndrome.
Yeah, and that has to be kind of, the different services that you kind of have in your background between Coast Guard and Army and Air Force just kind of makes that unique living within our military community just that much more special and unique for y'all's family. Can you tell us what your MSOY title is?
So I am AFI's 2022 Fort Belvoir Military Spouse of the Year.
Congratulations on that. And what were you nominated for?
So I'm going to just kind of go over my top three things that I think were the reasons why I was nominated. The first was is my work with families enrolled in the Exceptional Family Member Program, EFMP. EFMP, for those of you who don't know, is a DoD program. It's designed to help military families who have various specialty care needs. And this program has a lot of challenges. And that is why Exceptional Families of the Military exists, EFM. I work with EFM, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission is to help those families by providing support groups, case management services, and advocacy work, pushing DoD and DHA, which is childcare, policymakers and legislators to, write the right words that remove barriers for the 146,000 of us who are enrolled in the program across DoD. Second, I was nominated for my advocacy for the Afghans who helped us, who are still in Afghanistan after the fall of the government and our pullout there. This is deeply personal to me because of the time that I spent there, the time my husband spent there, and the Afghans I met while I was there. So I traveled while I was there and a lot around the country, and I was supported by amazing interpreters and other hardworking Afghans that supported the American people who were there at that time. And then lastly, advocacy regarding childcare. So those of us families in the military know that this is a challenging topic as well, and it's something that's very close to my heart because it's the reason why I got out of the military. So I started off enlisted and became an officer later, so I had enough years to retire, but I wasn't ready and I had to get out rather abruptly because I could no longer manage care for my family, being dual military. So I was no longer in a place where I could execute a family care plan. So I support viable solutions for all families, but of course, with my advocacy with EFMP, that ties into this because I especially advocate for EFMP families to have access to childcare as well. But in general, it is challenging for everybody. And that's why I was nominated.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like I just need to send you like my to-do list because I feel like you do everything and you get it all done and you do it so well. And I will say, as a prior dual military family ourselves, that child care piece for just dual military families is a huge deal and a huge issue. And just even in general now for a lot of our families that have, one parent is a service member or they're a single parent, or one of the other spouses is working as well, just being able to find affordable, safe, and reliable childcare is a huge thing, which is why a lot of spouses either choose not to work, and they try to get by with what they can, or they try to work from home or do little odd jobs here and there to try to make ends meet. So being able to find that safe and affordable and reliable childcare is such a huge thing for our community. So I want to say thank you for for working on that. And then for the Afghan refugees, we've got several MSOYs that had different roles and pieces of that as well. We're going to be talking to some others throughout the next couple of months. But if you guys remember, about a year ago, August, when we pulled out of Afghanistan and that big rush, some amazing stories that came out of all of that, of just our community rallying together and being able to get not only our American citizens home, but also those Afghan locals that supported us and worked with us and helped us through our time being there, making sure they could get to a safe location as well. And then your big thing, EFMP families, again, as an EFMP family, ourselves, I want to say thank you for the work that you and your team and your organization do for that too, because ours is not, I want to say it's probably not as, what's the word I'm looking for?
There's varying, a varying array of needs that people have in EFMP. It could range from anything like my son having Down syndrome to like somebody having a need to see a specialist about asthma. I mean, it's the gamut.
Yeah. So ours, I want to say, is not very, high on the scale of like needs and everything. It's kind of a low issue and everything. But even just for us trying to navigate, it always seems like a big headache, and it seems like a lot of paperwork and red tape to jump through. And so knowing that we have spouses, we have families, we have an organization that advocates for us and helps to try to make this process easier and helps to try to, get the services to be easier to attain, it just goes a long way to kind of improving our quality of life as family, a military family. So again, thank you for the work that you and your team do for that as well. So as you advocate for EFMP families with your organization, what are y'all working on now for that?
So, my passions definitely have not changed since I got nominated for this. And I would say my advocacy has definitely honed in on EFMP related issues as my primary path. But two things I'd like to speak about that I'm working on today is one, I'd like to highlight is the most recent Secretary of Defense letter outlining some great initiatives for our families. I was disappointed to not see EFMP mentioned. There are so many places to include our families in that letter. I could hit every point in that letter, but then I need an hour. So let me hone in and pepper you with ideas on childcare, which is, one of my interest areas. The letter spoke about expanding care and investing in the CDCs. My questions are, when they looked at on-base CDCs, did they consider EFMP families? Is there data for EFMP family enrollment? We know we have to fill out this complicated EFMP paperwork, every time we move. Can childcare be a consideration for that? Do you know how many people have been denied care on base? Can you track that to kind of help get data on our families? Could they look at expanding the CDCs to include contained classrooms, right, for some of our higher needs populations, or even allowing TRICARE Echo nurses the ability to provide assistance within the CDC setting would be a help for our families. There could even be a category as well for adult spouse disability status when it comes to wait lists. I mean, I'm just throwing ideas out there to remove barriers and expand care for our population. But I'm very curious in how our population was considered when it comes to these initiatives. And those were my specific questions for childcare. Anyways, EFM started a petition. And if you're interested in signing our petition to include EFMP on these initiatives, please click on the link. I will drop it in the comments. So that is one of the things we're working on. The second thing I like to talk about is the possibility to get an outside look at EFMP. As you mentioned, Megan, you have had some challenges and it's been very hard. And I think that resonates with a lot of people, right? There's a lot of frustration out there. There's been a lot of, language in the NDAA to change it. There's been a lot of new systems that have rolled out. But what I would like is a larger outside look. And the military did this with sexual assault, okay? They stood up an independent review commission. I feel like the government could do the same thing on EFMP. To support our families, could they do something similar? Disabilities to reform, to reform the military services exceptional family member program. I think it's time to attack the problem a little bit differently. Bringing to the table like subject matter experts from the state and federal level, community partners, advocacy organizations, and even military families. There's a whole coalition dedicated to EFMP. It's called the EFMP Coalition. It's a bunch of not like-minded nonprofits, and we want to represent EFMP families, and we want our voices to be heard. Maybe ask them, which is part of me too. Ask us. There are also models out there that DoD can review. So if you want to check out our entire paper on the Blueprint for Change, I'm going to drop it into the comments. But the short ask is really for DoD to stand up an independent review commission on this program, and just to get some more input on making it more accessible for our families and removing some of those barriers.
Yes, no, absolutely. So DOD, we need you to be listening here. We're gonna make sure this gets in front of who needs to see it, because it feels like it's a lot of like easy things that could be implemented, that could be changed or worded differently, that could solve a lot of the issues and problems that families are running into. We find that in a lot of different categories of military life as well. It's like, this shouldn't be so hard to do, and this shouldn't be so hard to get done. It feels like it should be an easy fix, but as we all know, bureaucracy at its finest, and how they have to word things and put things in place. But yeah, you have a lot of good ideas and suggestions and good questions that we need to be able to have those answers to as well. Because when we look at the makeup of our military community, the number of folks that have an EFMP family member residing in their home, and just the implications of that, and just how just having a small issue can impact where a service member can and cannot go to in their career progression as far as duty stations, and how that can impact their career as well, and how we need to make sure that our family home life isn't having that impact career-wise, and that they can be able to still provide for their families. No matter where we're being stationed at, the services are provided, and we're not getting there and then finding out like, no, what we need is not here. I know there's a great story of one of your team from Austin, where they had that experience and everything. And so I'm going to go back, and I'm going to dig out the link for that and drop that in the comments as well, because that is something, I think, a story everybody should see, especially our DoD needs to be able to see it, I think, regularly, for them to understand like just the impact that some of their decisions has on our family. So with all of this, like, I believe some of this from knowing what you've told us before with your son being born with Down syndrome kind of probably helped you get started in this journey that you've been on for advocating for EFMP families. But can you kind of walk us a little bit through kind of how you got started with your organization and taking that first step?
Absolutely. I think my first kind of like toe dip into advocacy was with the North Carolina Down Syndrome Alliance. I started hosting parent night out events, and even organized a diagnosis delivery training session to the OB residents and other medical staff at Womack Hospital. That's at Pope Army Airfield. That morphed into like a deeper focus for me on military families with Down syndrome diagnosis, which then morphed into helping all military families with a variety of specialty care needs. And then it kind of all culminated with my retirement in February 2020, which had to happen very fast. I had to get out on a hardship. I had to get Secretary of the Air Force approval because I had a commitment. Days before I retired, so I'm going through all these emotions and everything, big career change. This was huge for me. I thought I was going to stand for 30 years, so this was kind of a shock. Days before I retired, I watched the EFMP congressional hearing and was deeply moved by the testimony. I reached out to Austin Carrick, the founder of EFM, and the web and ideas and connections kind of spiraled out of there. And that's kind of what happened. And of course, it was all surrounding me looking for resources initially from having the birth of Winston, my son, who was born with Down syndrome, and I wanted to reach out to other people who were going through that experience. And but that's kind of what got me started there. And then what got me started with the Afghanistan advocacy was us pulling out, honestly, and my old interpreter reaching out for help. So this is a very emotional topic for me to put into words. But I will say that there are still, families there who I believe should have a clearer path and help getting to the U.S. to immigrate here. It's become more difficult as time has passed for the people that are still there. We did get a lot of people out, as you mentioned, but that my path to that really was a deeply personal connection as well. So I guess all this stuff is really personal. The birth of my son, and then my interpreter's family. So that's how I got into it.
Yeah, we find that a lot with our advocates, is that it's usually something personal for them as the reason why they get started in something, which is always, kind of good. We have that thing, that person that kind of is our drive towards wanting to make change and wanting to make sure the positive impact is made. So no, thank you for definitely sharing your reasons why and how your journey got started with that. So as part of our AFI MSOY community, how has our MSOY community supported you in the amazing work that you've been doing?
Well, I didn't realize was that I was already connected with other MSOY winners because in this space I'm in now, which is like the military service organization space, there's a bunch of us running around and running things, honestly. The support I received personally through mentorship from other MSOYs with more experience has helped me overcome challenges and hardships. Also, MSOY has supported the work I'm doing by connecting me with even more like-minded people. Highlighting my work on this show, for example, is amplifying my EFM voice and the voices of other EFMP families. On a more personal note, it connected me with you, Megan. I mean, I wouldn't know you, and you helped me with PCS like a pro, and you helped me during this very difficult move that I had this summer. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate it. So, I mean, I would recommend AFI's MSOY program to anyone, and also the conference, especially because it gives you an opportunity to connect with others and who are passionate about military families. And you never know where those connections might lead. For me, it led to nonprofit connections, personal help, and even deep friendships.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Our community is amazing. And it's sometimes surprising when you have an issue or a question, you just ask it. Somebody knows somebody who knows somebody or knows the place you need to go to be able to connect you and help you through whatever it is. And speaking of our MSOY community, we've got nominations opening beginning of December. So if you've got that spouse in your network, in your community that's doing amazing things, making an impact and making changes, and you want to be able to recognize them, set your timer beginning of December to be able to log in and nominate them and be able to show them that little bit of love and gratitude for what it is that they are doing, and help spotlight them and give them that appreciation that they deserve for making those changes in your community. So as we wrap up today, this is something I love asking every military spouse in general that I meet that is doing these great things in their community. What advice would you give to other spouses that are wanting to make a change in their community and maybe don't know how to start, where to go, or, they know they want to make a change, but they feel like they're just like a fish floundering on the side of the beach, not sure how to handle things? What advice would you offer to them?
I would say just dive in. So when I first stepped into this, I started out locally and now I'm working more nationally, but both are really important. And you want to find the right fit for you. I would say get out of your own head and stomp on any feelings you may have about imposter syndrome. Or I initially thought, how could I switch career paths so drastically and have something to offer? This is nothing to do with what I did in the military. But what I found out is that I have a ton of transferable skills. One of those is actually my comfort level with imposter syndrome, because I work through it sometimes a lot in the military, being in a predominantly male force, to be quite honest. So that's some advice. And then I also, I'll touch on, it can be very difficult to get into the space, and the hardest lesson I've learned is that when you're on a change in the community type of path, right? And it's not everyone in this space will be supportive of your efforts to enact positive change, whether it's, bucking against the system, kind of, right? The bureaucracy of the system, or some other things. But let any non-constructive criticism, trolling, bullying, especially online, or betrayal, just kind of roll off your back. Just keep at it. You're not faking it. You're in the trenches doing it every day. You're doing it. And if you're doing it, you just keep doing it. You may not see the payoff today, so that's something that can be very frustrating as well. Some things take a really long time to play out. So I feel like it's important to take joy in the successes that are small steps to your overall goal. And then just surround yourself with positive and supportive people. So when there is a setback, you have a support network, right? And honestly, like some of the people I've met in the MSOY community have been that for me. And that's really what has helped me, get off the ground, is having that supportive network and mentorship. So that's kind of a long answer, but that's my 2 cents.
No, and it's such a good answer too. And I love the part about, just the negativity, like just ignore it. We don't have time for that. You're doing great things in your community. And even if it's something I think a lot of our advocates try to keep at the forefront of everything, is if what you're doing helps just one family, like you've made a difference and you've made an impact, and what you've done is so worth it, because you've been able to help the family get through whatever it is that they needed help with. And so that's definitely worth it. So Rebecca, thank you for taking time out of your day and joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Megan. I really appreciate it. It's been a fun session.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So everyone else, thank you for joining us as well. Tune in next time as we talk with another one of our MSOYs. And until then, take care of each other.